This is Booked for Drama, where stories burn, hearts break, the tea is always hot and never a part 2. Today we're diving into my sister. Let's go. Chapter 1. When I was 10, for my sister's birthday, she wanted a porcelain doll. My father said, "Go on, slap your sister, and I'll buy it for you." And so, I took a hard slap across the face. When I was 17, my father sent my sister to study abroad but refused to pay for my college. I begged him for days. He threw $50 at me. "I don't owe you a damn thing, Alara." When I was 27, my sister returned from overseas, took a liking to my husband, and began to subtly, and not so subtly, flirt with him. My father sneered at me. "If you can't keep a man, that's your own failure." Yes, they all preferred my sister, Rosalie. The one with the fancy degree and the sweet-talking tongue. Even my own son. On his 5th birthday, my son, Leo, wanted to go to the amusement park, but not with me. He said I was too bossy. My husband, David, joked with him. "Go give mommy a slap. If she gets mad, she won't go. Then we can go with your Auntie Rosalie." And my son really did walk over and slap me. The sound was sharp and loud. I just stood there, stunned. Until my son's voice piped up again, "Daddy, is she mad now? Can I go to the amusement park with Auntie Rosalie?" David took our son to the amusement park without telling me. When they came back, Leo was holding a small, cheap-looking stuffed toy. He held it out to me timidly, not saying a word. His eyes, however, kept darting toward David. As if to say, "I did what you said to make her happy. Why is she still ignoring me?" I was in the dining room, packaging the desserts I had just finished baking. David walked in and saw the scene, his brow furrowing in disapproval. "Alara, are you really going to stay mad at your own son this long over a joke?" He ruffled Leo's hair. "He was thinking about you the whole time we were at the park today, and this is the look you gave him?" I glanced down at the crudely made, cheap toy in Leo's hands. On my phone, which was sitting on the table, was a message from my sister, Rosalie, sent just before they'd walked in. "Are you seriously jealous of me over Leo again? Why have you always had to turn everything into a competition with me, ever since we were kids? But I won't hold it against you. We saw one of those scans a code win a prize things at the park, so I had David get one for you. Just take it and get over it, okay?" David took the toy from Leo and pushed it toward me. "Alara, don't be childish in front of him." I sealed the last bag of cookies and finally looked up at David. "I'm not angry." I took out a small cookie and offered it to Leo. "Help mommy taste test this, okay?" Leo looked at the rabbit-shaped cookie. "Mommy, you used to only make the little bear cookies I like." "Oh, I got tired of those. I wanted to try something new." I started for the door. David called after me. "Where are you going this late?" "I have some things to take care of." I put on my shoes, not bothering to give him the usual detailed report of my whereabouts. "I just told Leo, remember to brush your teeth after your dessert. Mommy won't be here to tuck you in tonight." David texted me. "When are you coming home?" I pressed the button, and the screen went dark. I looked at my best friend, who was sampling my latest creation. "So, what's the verdict?" Sadie took a delicate bite, her eyes widening in amazement. "Honey, I've been telling you together. I am so happy you've finally come around. For years, we should open a dessert shop." She looked at me with a warmth that was both proud and relieved. "I was honestly starting life for the rest of your life to think you were going to be a housewife. But," she added, "my shop is in the next city over." "Are you sure you can bear to be away from Leo?" I didn't answer her question. My mind drifted back to the events of the day. Leo's 5th birthday. I had woken up at dawn to prepare. I'd cooked a whole table of his favorite foods. Even the decoration on the cake, his beloved Spider-Man, was something I had painstakingly carved out of chocolate, detail by detail. But Leo hadn't even glanced at it. He was used to my cooking. No matter how creative or delicious, it could never compete with the allure of fried chicken and soda from a fast food joint. So he'd just given the table a cursory look and turned to David. "Daddy, it's my birthday. Can Auntie Rosalie take me to the amusement park? I don't want Mom's food. I'm so sick of it." And that's when David had said it, "Go give mommy a slap." How could I even begin to explain all this to Sadie? I had chosen my husband. My son was my own flesh and blood. Complaining about it felt pointless and self-pitying. I just looked at Sadie and sighed softly. People really do change. I used to think all I ever wanted was a family of my own, that a husband and child were my destiny. When you told me a career was a woman's real foundation, I didn't agree. I even tried to convince you to get married. "Sadie," I said, my voice thick with emotion, "thank you for not holding that against me. And for still being willing to give me a chance. Sadie looked at me, our decade-long friendship a silent language between us. She understood the words I couldn't say. She squeezed my hand. As long as you're willing to change, it's never too late. It was past 9 by the time I finished talking business with Sadie. When I got home, I found my sister, Rosalie, sitting on the sofa with David. She was dressed in something light and revealing, and they were sitting very close together. When he saw me, a flicker of panic crossed David's eyes. But it was quickly replaced by irritation. In the past, the mere sight of him with Rosalie would have sent me into a hysterical fit, making everyone miserable. So, out of habit, he immediately went on the defensive. What are you thinking now? Leo wouldn't go to sleep without someone comforting him, so I asked your sister to come over. Oh, is he asleep now? I cut him off. No accusations, no arguments, no temper tantrum. My calm unnerved him. He opened his mouth, then closed it, finally mumbling a sullen, "Just fell asleep." Good, I'm going to go wash up. I started to walk past them. The annoyance on David's face deepened. He suddenly grabbed my wrist. Alara, I told you, your sister and I. Did I ask you anything? I looked at him, genuinely confused. Why was he getting angry when I wasn't even questioning him? Suddenly, Rosalie let out a sharp cry. David's attention snapped back to her. Rosalie, maybe you should head home. Rosalie looked at him with wide, pleading eyes. David, I think I twisted my ankle. Can you give me a ride? David glanced back at me, checking my reaction. I pulled my hand from his grasp. It's late. It's not safe for her to go home alone. You should take her. David stared at me, his eyes searching my face. Alara, what about me? His brow, which had been tightly furrowed, slowly relaxed. I'm glad you can be so understanding. It was my idea to have her come over, so I should be responsible for getting her home safely. But don't worry, I'll be right back. Oh, it's fine, I said, not wanting to drag out the conversation. I'm tired. If there's nothing else, I'm going to bed. David said he'd be right back, but a quick glance at Rosalie's Instagram stories showed the two of them at a bar. Rosalie was dancing wildly. David was right there by her side, never straying. A deep exhaustion washed over me. I muted Rosalie's account. Just then, Leo shuffled into the room, clutching his new toy, his eyes heavy with sleep. Mommy, aren't you sleeping with me Tonig HT? No, sweetheart. Mommy is going to sleep in the guest room. Chapter 2. Hooked at my reflection in the vanity mirror. At the faint handprint on my cheek that even makeup couldn't completely hide. Sadie had been heartbroken when she saw it. But I hadn't heard a single sincere apology from my husband or my son. They were acting as if nothing had happened. Leo's lip jutted out. Mommy, if you don't sleep with me, then take me to school tomorrow. And I won't eat your food either. Leo had night blindness. He'd been afraid of the dark since he was a baby. I met his angry gaze in the mirror. Leo, if you're so afraid of the dark, why don't you ask your father to stay with you? Daddy has to work. You don't do anything all day but spend Daddy's money. Isn't it your job to put me to sleep? So, if I stop spending Daddy's money, does that mean I don't have to put you to sleep anymore? Leo let out a cold sneer, his tone a perfect imitation of his father's. Don't be ridiculous, Mom. You're not smart and successful like Auntie Rosalie. If you didn't spend Dad's money, where would you get any? From Grandpa? But even Grandpa says you're the most useless person in the family. I had heard words like these my entire life. I wasn't as brilliant as Rosalie. I wasn't as educated as Rosalie. All the best things were meant for Rosalie. It was like our names themselves were a prophecy. She was Rosalie, the bloom. I was Alara, the block of wood. I was used to it. Numb to it. But I had never, ever imagined that one day, I would hear those same words from the mouth of the son I had carried for 9 months, the son I had risked my life to bring into this world. My hands trembled. An icy chill shot up from the soles of my feet to the crown of my head. I felt rage, and a deep, wounded sorrow. And then, all emotion receded, leaving behind a dead, still pool, incapable of even a ripple. I spoke to Leo softly. Fine. Then make sure you get up early tomorrow. Mommy won't be making you breakfast. I didn't have to make breakfast for Leo. I didn't feel the familiar pang of sadness over David once again staying out all night. I slept soundly. At 5 in the morning, I got up and packed a few essentials. As I dragged my suitcase out the door, Leo was still fast asleep, long past the time he should have been getting up for school. I took one last look at the home I had so carefully nurtured for so long. The clean clothes I had washed were hanging on the balcony. The ivy I had tended to was thriving, its vines sprawling beautifully. The potted plants were lush and green. Except for a few cigarette butts that David had carelessly stubbed out in the soil of the succulents, we had fought about him doing that many times. He never listened, and Leo had learned from his example. When he was bored, he liked to pull the leaves off my plants, leaving the once healthy greenery tattered and torn. Getting angry at them had never worked. Looking at them now, I realized those plants were just like me. Objects to be treated with casual indifference. I stood there for a long time. I knew I would never come back here. And I knew that David and Leo would never be able to take care of them. After a long silence, I sent a message to my neighbor, who also loved gardening. If you wouldn't mind, could I give you all my plants? I'd love for them to have a good home. 9 hours later, the plane landed in Ardencroft. I turned on my phone. Dozens of missed calls and messages. All from David. Where are you? What kind of mother are you? Leo was late for school, don't you care? Alara, are you seriously still sulking about me and your sister? Are you insane? She's your sister, what do you think is going to happen? How old are you, running away like this? You're not even answering your father's calls? Ha, no wonder your own father can't stand you. You'll just never be as good as your sister, Rosalie. I stared at the messages. My emotions, which I thought were long dead, stirred with a faint ripple of pain. Chapter 3. Those ripples grew sharp barbs, clawing their way into my limbs, my heart beginning to ache with 1,000 tiny pinpricks. I called him back. David's voice was hoarse from a hangover. Are you still mad about yesterday? It was a joke, and now you're abandoning your son over it? David, I said, my voice heavy with exhaustion, it's only a joke if the other person finds it funny. If someone slapped you, would you be laughing? David was silent. I continued softly, I'm going to be very busy for a while. You'll have to take care of Leo. I said I was leaving Leo in David's care. But after a long day of setting up the new dessert shop, I still couldn't shake the worry. That night, I carefully typed out a long list of instructions and sent it to him. I reminded him, Leo's water bottle needs fresh water every day. Make sure he remembers to drink it at school. David sent back a video. My fingers froze over the keyboard. I opened it. It was Rosalie, treating Leo to KFC. Leo was gnawing on a burger. Auntie Rosalie, who cares if mom doesn't come back? I think you'd be a way better mom for me. Rosalie glanced shyly at David, who was filming. Don't say things like that, sweetie. Your dad has to agree first. The video ended. David texted. Alara, do you regret it? Are you sad? What stupid business of yours is so important? See? You've been gone for 1 day, and your son has already replaced you. Slowly, character by character, I deleted the long message I had been typing. I replied, if 1 day can erase years of my devotion, then it's my failure as a mother for not teaching him gratitude. And it is your failure as a father to not only allow it, but to revel in being fought over by 2 women. David, I think it's time I seriously reconsider our relationship. Was I sad? Ever since Rosalie had returned and slowly inserted herself into our lives, yes, I had been sad. I had been hysterical. I screamed and fought. Countless times, I had acted like a madwoman, clinging to Leo at night, obsessively asking him why he liked Rosalie more than me. It got so bad that Leo refused to let me take him to school. He'd sling his backpack over his shoulder, his cold eyes a perfect mirror of his father's, and ask me, Mom, is there anything about you that's actually impressive? I had lived a barren, deprived life. I thought that by having David and Leo, my life would finally blossom. So I gave everything. I held nothing back. I thought that if I just kept giving, I would eventually earn the love I so desperately craved. That my life, like a flower, would one day bloom. But in the end, I discovered the truth. I planted flowers for the moon, and I scattered stars upon the sea. But the moon buried me, and the sea swallowed me whole. The only salvation in this life is to love yourself, fiercely and without apology. I stopped paying attention to anything related to David and Leo. I poured all my time, all my energy, into the dessert shop I opened with Sadie. She provided the capital, I provided the skill. I was busy from sunup to sundown. A month later, David showed up at the shop. He was dressed in a sharp black suit, completely out of place in the shop's whimsical, pastel pink decor. When he saw me, his handsome face was etched with its usual frown. You abandoned your home for a month for this little shop? I tried my best to remain calm. Is there something you need? He was clearly dissatisfied with my tone. His frown deepened. You're my wife. Do I need a reason to come see you? A sarcastic smile touched my lips. A whole month, and he was only just now remembering to find me? Was I just unimportant, or had he simply not cared? David loosened his tie. All right, I'm not going to waste my time. Leo is sick in the hospital. It's time for you to come home and take care of him like a mother should. Hearing his words, my heart sank, an involuntary, painful plummet. My feelings for Leo weren't like my feelings for David, which I could pick up and put down. A man's heart changes, you find a new one. But my son was my own flesh and blood, a child I had raised by my side every single day. I had been angry with him. I had been consumed with jealousy over Rosalie. The word, divorce, had been on the tip of my tongue during our last fight. But the thought of Leo, so young, had always stopped me. I couldn't bear it. Now, hearing he was sick, my heart felt like it was being pricked by 1,000 needles. I grabbed David's arm, my eyes red. He's sick? How could he be sick? Under my meticulous care, Leo had always been so healthy, his immune system strong. He rarely. David just raised an eyebrow. You should be asking yourself that. What kind of mother are you? I hastily asked Sadie for time off and got into David's car. I even caught a cold. I was so consumed with worry for Leo that I didn't even notice at first. The car, David's usual ride, had been completely redecorated. Gone were the classic black and white accessories I had chosen to match his tastes. It was now a palette of pale pink and gray. Like a young woman, tentatively testing the energy. I was in too much pain to care. The visceral, maternal agony left no room for anything else. I couldn't even wait for David to park the car. I ran ahead, up to the hospital floor. Chapter 4. As I waited for the elevator, I thought to myself, I don't want anything else. I would give up everything, as long as my child is safe, healthy, and happy. But when I reached the hospital room, just as I was about to push the door open, I heard Rosalie's voice from inside. Oh no, Leg, I'm so sorry. I'm terrible at taking care of kids. Not only did I let you get sick, but I just ordered a ton of spicy food out of habit. You just finished your IV, how can you eat this? Leo's voice, small and weak, replied, It's okay, Auntie Rosalie. My dad said he'd bring Mom back. This kind of stuff isn't for you anyway. Once she's here, she can do it. Don't be sad, he added. Just having you here with me makes me really happy. Leo's words were a dagger, carving away at my flesh, piece by bloody piece. I swayed on my feet, nearly collapsing. It felt as though a bucket of ice water had been dumped over my head. The frantic, desperate need to see my son cooled, then froze solid. My heart stopped beating. A tear splashed onto the back of my hand, so hot it felt like a burn. David stepped out of the elevator. I hastily wiped my eyes and turned away, not wanting him to see me in such a state. He wouldn't care. Any love that might have existed between us had been eroded away by years of neglect. I heard him answer his phone. Alara can't stand being away from the kid, he was saying. She couldn't stay away. There was a pause. I couldn't hear the other side. Then David's voice, cool and detached, tinged with a chilling indifference. My wife doesn't need to be perfect or brilliant. I just need her to take care of the family, to take care of me and our son. Who that person is, does it really matter? I went back to Ardencroft. David, surprised not to find me in the hospital room, called me again. Alara. He practically bit my name out. It was his tell, the sign he was about to lose his temper. In the past, his anger would have sent me into a panic. I would have desperately tried to figure out what I'd done wrong and scrambled to fix it. But this time, I just stood outside the dessert shop, thinking about the past month. The truth was, I hadn't been able to let go. A marriage isn't a fling. You can't just walk away clean. I had tried. I tried to leave, to do things myself, to stop my world from revolving around David and Leo. But it didn't work. I cried myself to sleep at night. In any quiet moment plagued by self-doubt. I tormented myself daily, asking why my own son didn't want me. Why, after giving them everything, I hadn't received even a shred of affection, or even basic respect. I couldn't let go. I truly couldn't. But the things you can't let go of have a way of growing thorns, piercing you until you're covered in wounds. My hysterics, my quiet withdrawal, nothing had ever caused even a ripple in their hearts. The hopelessness of it all was crushing. David, I said, after a long pause, my voice steady. Let's get a divorce. I wanted to try, just once, to love myself properly. I wanted to see if letting go of what I couldn't hold, just letting it all turn to dust, would finally make me feel better. With Sadie's help, the divorce papers were sent to David 3 days later. He had just left the house, carrying a change of clothes to go stay with Leo at the hospital. The papers were delivered to him on the street, out of the blue. He tore open the package. He'd been working overtime for days, then going straight to the hospital. He hadn't been eating or sleeping properly. There were dark circles under his eyes. The house behind him was a mess. Staring at the divorce papers, a vein throbbed in his temple. He rubbed his forehead, exhausted. Why divorce? He didn't understand. It felt absurd, just as absurd as when the neighbor had come by to collect the potted plants. How could Alara give away her plants? She had nurtured them so carefully. She always got so angry when he or Leo mistreated them. She couldn't possibly want to give them away. She was just sulking. She loved those plants, just like she loved him and their son. She would never leave them. But she really had. Her name, Alara, was signed neatly on the papers. The strokes were clean, decisive. Like her resolve to be rid of them. She truly didn't want them anymore. As easily as she had discarded the plants she had once cherished. Just like that. Gone. Chapter 5. Business at the dessert shop was booming. On the last day of the mandatory waiting period for the divorce, David came to find me, with Leo in tow. It happened to be Children's Day. To attract customers, I was doing a live demonstration, recreating the Spider-Man I had made for Leo's birthday out of fondant. Sadie was working the crowd. More and more children gathered around. "Wow, you're amazing, lady," they exclaimed. "It's Miss," actually, I corrected them with a smile, my voice muffled by my clear mask. The kids were enthusiastic. "Miss, can you make Queen Elsa?" "Of course. And we have a special today." I smoothly transitioned into pitching the day's deals to the parents. The crowd grew larger. I handed out cookies and flyers. And then I saw him. Leo. David was holding his hand, standing just outside the crowd. He had lost weight in the month I'd been gone. His eyes were wide and watery, his expression wounded as he stared at me. I had one cookie left on my tray, a little teddy bear. A quiet, well-behaved little girl was standing right in front of Leo. I handed the cookie to her. "Thank you, miss," she said sweetly. Leo saw the empty tray, and his face turned beet red. "That's my bear cookie. Mine." After I had asked David for a divorce, I would still, pathetically, find myself missing Leo. To keep myself from falling back into old patterns, I would engage in a form of self-torture. I would open Rosalie's Instagram. And I would screenshot every single post she made about David and Leo. Including the provocative DMs she sent me. "It's not like I'm trying to steal your husband and son. They're the ones who don't want you. See? Leo just called me mommy. Looks like the real mom isn't very popular." Every time my resolve weakened, I would unlock my phone and put myself through this desensitization therapy. It's okay. The people who don't love me, I don't want them either. I gave the intricately carved Spider-Man to the family that had bought the most desserts. From the edge of the crowd, Leo began to wail. "That's mine. Daddy, that's my Spider-Man." The commotion drew stares. David's handsome face darkened. "Alara, are you going to do something about this?" I walked over to Leo. His shoulders were shaking with sobs, as if his most precious possession had been stolen. How ridiculous. When I had served it to him on a silver platter, he had treated it like trash. Now that it was truly gone, he cherished it. Is this kind of pathetic possessiveness just ingrained in men from birth? I bent down, looking at the son for whom I had so often relented, so often softened, only to be wounded in return. I asked him, "Leo, I made you the exact same Spider-Man once. You were the one who didn't want it. What are you crying about now?" David had brought Leo here to discuss the divorce. "Are you sure you won't reconsider?" "There's nothing to reconsider." I tapped my phone, the screen lighting up and then going dark. Leo was eating dessert with Sadie, occasionally casting a pitiful glance in my direction. David was silent for a long moment. "Is this because of your sister?" I didn't answer. He rubbed his forehead. "I really don't think you need to worry. First, she's your sister. I would never cross that line. I have some self-respect. Second, Rosalie is terrible at taking care of Leo. She has no idea how to raise a child. Are you really willing to leave Leo?" Adam's apple bobbed. His voice grew husky as he stared at me. "Are you really willing to leave Leo and me to someone else?" I didn't speak. My finger tapped the screen. It lit up. It went dark. Lit up again. David, receiving no answer and infuriated by my dismissive attitude, snatched my phone from my hand. "Alara, even if you're serious about this divorce, we could at least part on good terms. Your son and I are here, practically begging you, and what are you doing? What's so interesting on your phone?" He glanced down at the screen, and then he fell silent. It was all there, all the proof of his and Leo's disrespect, their neglect, and their smug satisfaction in it all. His anger was like a fire doused with water, leaving behind nothing but ashes. He stood there, covered in the gray dust of his own making, and pleaded with me. Leo and I can't live without you. We can change. Can't you just not divorce me? No. I met his pleading gaze and looked at him calmly. David, I was a little slow to answer your question, and you got this angry. Have you ever stopped to think about how much pain I must have been in, all those times I was hysterical? You and Leo, you don't actually love me. You just can't bear to lose a life in a maid who dedicates her entire existence to you. Otherwise, tell me, to this day, has either of you ever apologized for that slap on Leo's birthday? David's jaw worked. It was just a joke. Rage boiled in my chest. Finally, I gave up trying to communicate with him altogether. I raised my hand and slapped him hard. His head snapped to the side. I had used all my strength. My own hand was numb and stinging from the impact. Seeing the red handprint rapidly rising on his face, I let out a sharp, cleansing breath. I'm just joking with you, David. Is it funny? My marriage to David did not survive. The day we left the courthouse, it was pouring rain. David stood beside me, holding an umbrella. It's not too late to change your mind. His gaze was fixed on Rosalie, who was holding Leo's hand a short distance away. The look on her face was a mixture of triumph and provocation. Without hesitation, I stepped out from under the umbrella and into the rain. David, if I didn't have the ability to hold my own umbrella, I still would. I wouldn't place my hopes in someone else. Especially not a man. David's eyebrow shot up. The next second, several sports cars screeched to a halt beside us. The doors flew open. Sadie and the girls from the shop jumped out, unfurling a banner in a practiced, orderly fashion. Confetti pop-pers exploded. They shouted in unison, "A woman independent is a woman radiant." Congratulations to the beautiful Ilara on escaping hell and reclaiming her throne. In the pouring rain, they embraced me in a joyous, fierce hug. Sadie's 6-year-old nephew presented me with a bouquet of sunflowers. Auntie Ilara, there are millions of men in the world. This one sucks, so we'll just find another one. We all burst into laughter. Sadie picked up a confetti popper and deliberately aimed it in David and Rosalie's direction, setting it off. They scrambled to shield themselves, completely forgetting about Leo. He was knocked to the ground, scraping his palm. He looked at me, his eyes welling up with tears. But I would never give him a response again. I took the little nephew's hand. Sadie, having had her fun, tossed the empty popper aside, covered her nephew's ears, and shot a cold sneer at David. Congratulate Ian star baby Ilara. She's finally divorced this loser. Chapter 6. Life after the divorce was more fulfilling and joyful than I had ever imagined. 3 months later, I received my first dividend from the shop just shy of 6 figures. It coincided with my father's 60th birthday. As the eldest daughter, I was expected to help. So I booked the hotel, arranged the MC, and dedicated myself to making my father's 60th birthday a grand and respectable affair. David attended with Leo, with Rosalie by his side. They looked for all the world like a family. When Leo saw me, his eyes lit up. But I only glanced at him for a second before looking away. His expression fell. Rosalie seemed wary of me, clutching David's arm tightly, her eyes full of suspicion. David gave me a slight nod. I returned the gesture politely. Throughout the entire banquet, Rosalie's attention was glued to David, as if she were afraid someone would steal him away. Which, to be fair, was understandable. Based on looks alone, he was far superior to any other man in the room. And with his company about to go public, he was, technically speaking, handsome and wealthy. But Rosalie probably didn't know the truth. The only reason David had the time to focus on his work, to go to the gym and maintain his appearance, was because he had a wife at home who did everything without complaint. I kept the home front in perfect order so he would shine in the outside world. But why should I? The biggest lesson I learned from my divorce was this. Investing in others by sacrificing yourself is a high-stakes gamble. You lose 9 times out of 10. But investing in yourself? You win. Halfway through the banquet, I noticed Leo had barely touched his food. He was too small to reach the dishes he wanted. Rosalie wasn't paying him any mind. And David was never one to notice such small details. I thought for a moment, then went to the kitchen and made a bowl of the noodle soup he used to love. I had a waiter bring it to him. When Leo saw the familiar bowl, tears began to stream down his face. In a room full of chatter, I was the only one who noticed him. He finally seemed to understand how wrong he had been. He ran toward me, crying, "Mommy, I'm sorry, Mommy, I know I was wrong. Please don't leave me, okay?" The room fell silent. All eyes turned to us. Leo had run from Rosalie's side. Her face was a mask of fury. Guests began to whisper, "So she's the kid's real mom? Tisk, you didn't know? The older sister got divorced, the younger one is the new one." "No way. The sister went after her own sister's husband? Has she no shame? If you ask me, the kid is the one who suffers the most. A new stepmom means a new stepdad. Look, everyone's almost done eating, and the poor kid is still hungry. Who cares? Only his real mom." The whispers grew louder. I gently removed Leo's hands from my arm. "I'm sorry, but I'm not your mother." Leo was a mess of tears and snot. "Yes, you are. You're the only one who cares about me. The only one who notices when I'm sad. Mommy, I really know I was wrong." It was too late. My love for Leo had been worn away long ago, every time he had sided with everyone else against me. So why did I make him the noodles? Because I refused to lose myself for anyone else's sake. My mistake was not growing thorns to protect myself. It was not a mistake to be sincere with someone. I would have made a bowl of noodles for any child who was hungry. But Leo wouldn't let go. Facing the judgment of the room, Rosalie had no choice but to try and pull him away. "Leo, come here." Leo shook her off. "You're a bad woman. I don't want you. You only want to marry my dad. You don't even care if I'm hungry." The chatter in the room grew even louder, finally attracting the attention of my father. He came over, leaning on his cane. Worried about his high blood pressure, I tried to calm him. "It's okay, Dad, I can handle this." Instead, he struck me with the cane, completely catching me off guard. The pain was so sharp I nearly buckled. It was David who caught me. I stared at my father in disbelief, forgetting even to push David away. My father slammed his cane on the floor, his old, clouded eyes filled with nothing but a fierce need to protect Rosalie. "What is all this nonsense? Alara's divorce is her own failure. It has nothing to do with Rosalie." Yes, from the very beginning, my father had doted on Rosalie and despised me. Even when I had given him everything I possibly could. I had paid for this entire banquet. But I hadn't received a single word of praise from him. Someone said one bad thing about Rosalie, and he was willing to publicly humiliate me for it. From my marriage to my divorce, he had never defended me. Not once. In my entire life, he had never defended me. Chapter 7. I shakily got to my feet. "Dad, I've always wondered. Why do you hate me so much?" That slap when I was 10 was a thorn that had been lodged in my heart for my entire life. The constant neglect, the psychological abuse, had conditioned me to erase myself, to please others in my work, my friendships, my marriage. I thought I had moved past it, built a core of my own, that I was finally on my way up. But the fatherly love I never received could still tear me down so easily. "Don't you deserve to be hated?" My father looked at me, his face a cold mask. "So this is why you spent all this money on my party? To pull a stunt like this? You can't blame Rosalie just because the man you couldn't keep happens to like her." He slammed his cane on the table. He was willing to ruin his own 60th birthday just to defend Rosalie's honor. The initial pain in my heart subsided, replaced by a cold calm. I called over the hotel manager. I pointed at Rosalie. "Make sure she gets the bill." As the guests stared at each other in stunned silence, I turned to my father and bowed deeply. "No matter what I do, I will never earn your affection. Since that's the case, please have your precious Rosalie handle the rest of this. Also, the health insurance I bought for you, the physicals I scheduled, they're all cancelled. From now on, if you need something, call Rosalie. Don't call me. Oh, and one more thing." I turned to the older relatives in the room. I couldn't help but overhear you congratulating my father on raising 2 daughters and finally getting his reward. I'd like to correct the record. I stopped my education at 17. My father provided no support after that. The money I earned was taken by him to fund my sister's studies abroad. So, please, don't ever say that my father raised me. I can't bear the credit. As for my marriage, the divorce was my choice. We both made mistakes. I have no desire to discuss it further. With that, I turned and walked away. I would never again feel the pain of my father's favoritism. Shedding the old shackles, today I finally know who I am. My life, I realized, was just one long process of demystifying the supposed sanctity of family and blood. With this realization, my steps felt lighter. Even standing alone in the darkness again, I didn't feel a shred of sadness. I looked up at the lush canopy of the old sycamore tree above me. As a child, when I was ignored, when my father forced me to quit school, I would hide here and cry. I had a vague sense that he resented me because my mother had betrayed him and abandoned our family. Because I looked so much like her. I had carried my mother's sins on my own shoulders, terrified of not being loved by my father. But now, having finally lost the things I had once been so afraid of losing, my heart felt steady. My life was finally beginning to flourish. The leaves of the sycamore rustled. David's voice came from behind me. "You always come here when you're sad." I turned. He was leaning against his car, an unlit cigarette dangling from his lips. Leo was asleep in the back seat, the tracks of dried tears still on his cheeks. I allowed myself another glance. David's voice was low and gravelly. "Rosalie's not here," he was explaining himself. "Nothing physical ever happened between your sister and me." He watched me, his dark eyes quiet and intense. I noticed that the decorations in his car had been changed back to the ones I had bought for him years ago. But some things, once changed, can be changed back. "Is there really no chance for us anymore?" He broke the silence, his deep voice trembling slightly. "I told our relatives that the divorce was my fault. That I didn't care about your feelings, and that I let our son disrespect you. You were married to me for 7 years, you gave me Leo, you managed our home perfectly, and I thought that was just what you were supposed to do. So I didn't cherish it. I didn't cherish that you wanted nothing from me. I didn't cherish that you truly loved me and Leo. I regret it now." "Alara," he said, his Adam's apple bobbing, "I am truly willing to change now. I promise that Leg and I will never touch your plants again. You won't have to do all the housework. You can do whatever you want. I'll keep my distance from other women. Can you just give me and Leo one more chance?" His gaze was sincere and earnest. It reminded me, for a fleeting moment, of when I was 19, when we first started dating. He had looked at me with those same eyes then. He had said he loved me. He had said he would never let me suffer the way my father had made me suffer. But when I was 27, after he had spent the night at a bar with another woman, he had screamed at me, "No wonder your own father can't stand you." Which of those statements wasn't true? The love and the hate both came from the heart. That's what made it all so much more painful. "Let it go, David," I said, shaking my head. "My life is good now. Better, even, than it was with you." I pointed up at the sycamore tree. "People on the internet always say that the sycamore stands tall, but its heart is hollow. I think that's strange. Why would it be hollow? This tree and I, we will always be full of life." Chapter 8. No storm is worth withering for. 5 years later, in the summer, Rosalie gave birth to David's son. They never got married. David told me himself that in his heart, I was still the only wife he acknowledged. Ridiculous, isn't it? Men are always so lost in their own self-aggrandizing fantasies of devotion. The day Rosalie gave birth, Leo, now 10, showed up at the dessert shop Sadie and I used to run. He had a fistful of crumpled bills and was demanding that the new baker make him a Spider-Man. Sadie, at a loss, had to call me. Our dessert shop had long since expanded. I was managing a new branch in another city. It would be a hassle to go back. Sadie vented over the phone. Don't come back. I felt a little bad for him, he was crying like his world was ending. But then I remember how he and that scumbag father of his treated you, and I get furious all over again. He loved his little mistress so much, what's he doing here looking for you? It's his 10th birthday today, I said, putting the phone on speaker as I untied my apron. He's probably heartbroken. David is at the hospital with Rosalie, and no one remembered his birthday. Sadie was quiet for a moment. He brought this on himself, didn't he? He did. So there was nothing to pity. Later, after Rosalie had the baby, David still refused to marry her. She had no official title, no security. She finally broke. She started screaming matches at home, then took her fights to David's office. The more she raged, the more annoyed he became. And where there's one affair, there can always be another. Rosalie was cast aside. When she learned that David would rather marry his new mistress than give her a legal title, she took a kitchen knife, stormed into his office, and after screaming a list of all his sins, she stabbed him. My father called me, asking me to go to the police station to bail Rosalie out. I had nothing better to do, so I went to visit her. The glamorous, worldly Rosalie who had returned from overseas was gone. She was disheveled and defeated. She hadn't expected my father to send me. She screamed at me through the glass partition. "You're just here to laugh at me, aren't you?" I waited quietly for her to finish her tirade before picking up the phone. "Rosalie, you're right, I am here to laugh at you. You had such a bright future. Tell me, what did you get from being so obsessed with one man?" She stared at me, then covered her face and began to sob. Yes, what had she gotten? In exchange for posting her bail, I formally severed all ties with my father. Sadie was waiting for me outside the police station. Why were you so soft on her? Even if you hadn't paid, they couldn't have forked you two. She's my sister. Before our mother left, we were very close. I feel like what happened to her is partly my fault. I didn't teach her well. There you go again, taking all the responsibility. If someone is determined to be crooked, no amount of outside force can send them out. Okay, fine, I shrugged, admitting the truth. Honestly, I really want to see David get what he deserves. She stabbed him. She did something I couldn't do, and that makes me happy. I'm earning good money now, so why not give her another chance? True, Sadie nodded. Why should it always be women fighting over a man? Why is it always the women who pay to see a man ruined for once? Oh, he's already ruined, I said, raising an eyebrow at her. He's the price? I started raising an eyebrow at her. He's permanently injured, his company is gone, the new mistress ran off, and his teenage son wants nothing to do with him. How do you know all this? Did you go back to see him? A true woman never looks back, I said, pulling up my phone. Leo gives me daily updates on how miserable his life is. Tisk, tisk, Sadie sighed. Only 5 years. I guess what goes around. They did. Why? They did it all to themselves. I sighed too. He could have had a much better future. But none of it had anything to do with me anymore. My life was destined for a much, much wider world. The end. And that's a wrap on today's reading here at Booked for Drama. If you felt anything, rage, swoon, secondhand heartbreak, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow drama lovers. If you have any requests, drop them in the comments. Until next time, keep reading, and keep the drama on the page.